we've taken a very black and white approach to this topic of making decisions. But as we all know far too well, making decisions aren't always black and white. Sometimes things are neither good nor bad. Sometimes they're both good and bad. Sometimes you have to weigh up the choice. So, when the decision isn't clear, what should you be doing? And here's what I think. When it comes to these grey area decisions, the approach I like to take is one, the opposite of what we've done in the good and bad decisions. And that is, rather than making any immediate decision, wait. The key here is to wait. Time is your friend when it comes to these grey area decisions. Before you decide something, sleep on it. Take your time. Allow yourself to reflect on the decision and weigh up the pros and the cons. Is this decision worth making? Is it worth it? And sleep on it. And then ultimately make the choice. But do so without regret. Because the regret lies within the person making the decision immediately. Don't do that. Try to really think about it. Try to really weigh up the pros and cons. And then, when you feel like it's time, when you feel like you're ready to make a decision, then make your decision and leave the rest to Allah. From that point onwards, I don't think a person should feel regret at all, because you weren't hasty in your decision. You thought about it, you slept on it, you reflected on it. So you can't now turn around and be like, you know what, I shouldn't have made that decision. It's the decision that you chose and you ultimately made. However, it goes back to the principle we mentioned with bad decisions, and it's important to remind yourself of this. And that is that avoiding bad decisions are a lot better than making good ones. So if you find yourself in a situation in which it's a grey area decision, you don't know if you should be making this decision or not, remember, avoiding making a bad decision is better than making a good one. And whenever I've taken this approach, use this framework, I found that ultimately a lot of the times when I sleep on it, when I think about it, when I reflect on it, I think to myself, you know what, it's best to avoid taking the risk. It's best to avoid it turning out to be a bad decision. So ultimately I don't make a decision. However, there are times, and there have been times, in which I think about it and I think, you know what, this is both good and bad. And I recognize it, I know it's both good and bad. However, after sleeping on it and thinking about it, I think to myself, this is a risk I'm willing to take. And ultimately, from that point onwards, there is no regret, because I chose to make that decision. I thought about it. I weighed up the pros and cons, and when it came to the decision, I was willing to live with the results. So that's how I approach the gray area decisions.